those with loved ones trapped inside, the collapse of the South Tower is a terrifying premonition.
When the first tower went down, I was hoping that Melissa had gotten out of the building. I knew she was not in that tower. Dad really wanted her to call back. Sean had told us that she had called him. He really wanted her to call back. And just nervously anxious was the way I viewed him. As a parent, you always want to have hope. I thought that if there was a way to get out of the building, that Melissa, at that point in time, that she would have been out of the building.
I was on the phone with one of Jim's friends when the first tower collapsed. All you could hear if you listened in on the call was just crying and wailing. And then this, after about 5 or 10 minutes of that, this sense of calm that, oh wait, that's not his tower. It feels strange to report on the events of that day that we just isolated Jimmy's safety and how we could distance ourselves from the horrific event and the casualties that everybody else faced. But that felt like our duty.
My parents were down in Florida on September 11th. They were not watching television until I told them to turn it on. My father was counting the floors to see, because he saw it on television. He was trying to figure out if Jim was above or below where the plane had hit. The first thing my father said to me was, "He was such a great father." You know, and that makes it real, because for me to think he's not going to make it out is one thing, but for my father to say that, because it's just in the past, that made it real, more real for me, that this is really, his life was ending.
At 10:28, 102 minutes after it was hit, the North Tower fell.
I saw the tower fall. Yeah, I saw the tower fall down, and I knew for sure I'd never hear from him again. I saw his life end right there.
I felt that, my heart had been ripped from my body. I can't ever remember feeling that sadness ever in life, or that much emotion and tears, and nor do I hope I ever will.
My wife Beverly was working teaching school in Chicopee. I had to drive to Chicopee to inform my wife that Melissa was in the North Tower. We were listening to the whole thing on the radio when we were driving back, and on our way home, the North Tower collapsed. My wife asked me to shut the radio off. I shut the radio off, and we came home and cried together.
When the North Tower collapsed, 1,402 civilians were killed. Along with Melissa Harrington Hughes and Jim Gartenberg, they included Christopher Hanley, Brian Nunez, Jeffrey Nussbaum, and Tom McGinnis.
The question really about the Trade Center is, what are our memories made out of? Are they made out of images and myths? Are they made out of hard facts? The is essential, because if history is going to be a tool for the living, if memory is going to be something that we can rely on, then you can't blink, you can't turn away. You have to say, this is what happened, and this is how it happened.
From families, the pain of September the 11th may never recede. But now that several years have passed, they are beginning to understand the profound legacy of their loved one's final words.
My mother is very philosophical. She doesn't get stuck by something like this. I think she recognizes it and sort of absorbs it and tries to make the most of it, and she looks forward. So she's doing well, I think. The world doesn't stop for every tragic loss of life. And, you know, I kind of wish the world could. The world gets too busy. And I understand you can't. You'd be in constant grieving. It's too easy for me to fall into a place where life is only about endurance. And I think that's a very poor way of live life. It's ignoring all the gifts you're given. And I didn't want to be that way. I didn't want to be that way. And, you know, I can say that I don't think I have. Jim called me, you know, instantaneously as soon as it happened. His first response was he needs to talk to me. To have his voice, just to have his voice, it's nice, even though it's in panic mode and some last memories. When Jim passed away, I was 3 months pregnant. You know, here I am with this special gift, as far as I'm concerned, that he left me with. And to me, that's so important that we have that. She has a personality, she's quick-witted, and her sense of humor is just like him. So knowing that, you know, she's such a part of him, and that my other child's such a part of him, it makes me happy, that part.
I was the last one from the outside world to talk to Melissa. We were able to say how much we loved each other, and I think of it constantly, all of the time, ever since Melissa's passing. I don't want to put a good spin on it, but it's changed him. It's made him more aware of things, I should say. He's more a loving man now than he was before. Didn't show his feelings as much before, and now he does. Like with my son, who was, coincidentally, which was kind of fate, I would have to say, was born on September 11th. When you leave the face of this earth, all you leave are your children. That's your legacy. Melissa brought a lot of joy into our lives. My inner peace with Melissa's death might come from the fact that I spoke to her. I find a lot of pleasure knowing that Melissa called me, knowing that we were able to say our last goodbyes, basically. I got to talk to Melissa in person, and I'll take that to my grave.